Have you ever had that sinking feeling that you were the backup plan? The person gets the call only after someone else wasn't free? Well, today, we're going to get right into the powerful psychology behind being the second choice and how it can quietly, totally rewire the way you see the world.
And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's not about being told no. It's about that yes that feels, well, it feels like it has an asterisk next to it. And that feeling right there is where our whole conversation begins.
Okay, and I really want to be clear about this right from the start. The things we're going to talk about are not character flaws. They're not signs of a weak personality. Not at all. They're actually these incredibly sophisticated, super smart adaptations your mind created to deal with a very specific kind of environment.
So how does this actually happen? What is going on under the hood that causes this shift? Let's take a look at the brain's quiet rewiring. It all comes down to this core concept called rejection sensitivity. Think of it like a smoke detector in your house. After a couple of real fires, it starts to get a little trigger happy, right? It goes off at the slightest hint of smoke. It's the same idea. After being overlooked again and again, your brain learns to expect it, and it becomes hyper alert to any tiny sign that it might be happening again.
And this really shows you the two different worlds the brain can grow up in. On one side, you have consistent support, which builds these nice, strong pathways for safety and trust. But on the other side, with inconsistent support, well, the brain builds a completely different blueprint, one based on uncertainty, a deep need for self-reliance, and just constant vigilance.
So all this rewiring, it leads to the development of this powerful defense mechanism. We're going to call it the shield. And it's basically forged from two things: a fierce independence and an incredibly sharp awareness.
And building this shield happens in two key steps, and you probably don't even realize you're doing it. Step 1, you learn to constantly scan your social environment for any hint of a threat. Step 2, you learn to build your own shelter, because you just can't be sure if anyone else's is going to be there for you when you need it.
So what does scanning the environment even look like? Well, it means you become a master at reading the subtext. You notice the tiny shift in someone's tone, that pause that's just a little too long, the change in body language. This isn't you being insecure. This is a skill you learned. It's data-driven. Your brain figured out that rejection doesn't show up with a big announcement. It comes quietly.
And this right here really explains that second step, building your own shelter. This quote nails a huge misconception. It's not that people who've gone through this hate getting help. Of course not. They've just learned the hard way that help can be temporary, and the pain of it disappearing is just too high a price to pay.
And what happens over time is that they learn to be their own source of pretty much everything. They stop waiting around for someone else to rescue them from a tough spot, to reassure them when they're feeling anxious, or to even validate their wins. They figure out how to handle pain, solve their own problems, and even celebrate their victories, all on their own.
Okay, so we've talked about the shield, but how does this all actually play out in our relationships? This brings us to the next section, the bond, which is this approach to connection that's often driven by two really powerful forces: overgiving and fear.
Think about it. It's a logical strategy. If you're constantly afraid that you're replaceable, what's the best defense? You make yourself so valuable, so essential, that no one would ever dream of replacing you. The subconscious goal isn't just to be liked, it's to become absolutely irreplaceable.
And this often leads to what you could call the unspoken contract. Just look at the imbalance here. They pour insane amounts of time, energy, and understanding into their relationships. The hope is that if they give enough, their absence would leave a hole that's just impossible for anyone else to fill.
And again, let's be really clear here. This is not a sign of weakness or being a doormat. It is a strategy that was born from experience. It comes from a learned belief that your place in someone's life is conditional, that it has to be earned and then re-earned every single day. All of this, it really just boils down to one question that's always humming in the background of their mind. Is there a deep fear of being temporary? A fear of just being a placeholder until someone better comes along? And psychology tells us that repeated emotional neglect is directly linked to this very fear.
And that fear, the fear of being quietly swapped out, it drives some very specific behaviors. Things like downplaying your own needs because you're terrified of being a burden, or avoiding conflict at all costs just to keep the peace. And sometimes, it means accepting way less than you deserve because the alternative feels like being left with nothing at all.
But here's the thing. This is where the whole story can, and I think should, flip entirely. Because all of these adaptations, all of these things forged in really difficult moments, they also create something pretty remarkable.
Let's call it the silent superpower.
This is the absolute key. Their strength isn't the loud, flashy, look-at-me kind of resilience. It's quiet. It's the ability to weather a storm without anyone on the outside even knowing it's raining. It's an internal strength that just doesn't need an audience to exist.
So what does this superpower actually look like in real life? Well, it's an incredibly high emotional endurance. It's the ability to survive disappointments that might absolutely shatter other people, and to do it without falling apart. It's staying calm when plans go sideways, because honestly, they've been there before. And this kind of endurance, it completely shapes their core values. They learn that big, passionate displays of affection can come and go, but loyalty, that's what provides real safety. They start to value consistency way more than intensity.
So you see this huge shift in focus. While a lot of people might be out there chasing the highs of excitement and passion, their priority changes. They start chasing safety. And what does safety look like to them? It looks like consistency, honesty, and effort. It's the quiet, everyday proof that someone is in it for the long haul.
It all comes down to this simple but profound philosophy. That one grand gesture, that big "I choose you" moment, it means so much less than all the small, daily choices someone makes to show up, to be present, and to put in the work. It's about being chosen consistently, not just once.
And that really brings us to the most important point of all. Understanding this whole pattern isn't about making excuses. It's about finding explanations. And once you see the blueprint, once you understand the why behind it all, you can finally stop blaming yourself for the way your mind adapted to survive.
So I want to leave you with one final thought to really chew on. What if your hyper-awareness, your fierce independence, and your incredible emotional endurance, what if they aren't flaws you need to fix? What if they are, in fact, your greatest strengths, forged in the very moments you felt the most forgotten?